Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. In this video, we will enter the trenches of the Ukrainian army located on the outskirts of the city of Avdiivka, south of the city of Bakhmut, where the bloodiest battles since the beginning of the war in Ukraine are currently being fought. On March 27th, the head of the military-civilian administration of Avdiivka, Vitaliy Barabash said, "The situation is extremely tense. The city is in the red zone, which means that the entry of volunteers, the media, and civilians is prohibited. The Russian army is advancing on Avdiivka. The armed forces of Ukraine are beginning preparations to meet the upcoming Russian offensive. Communal services are being evacuated from Avdiivka, and communications for mobile phones are being cut off to prevent Russian supporters from informing the Russian armed forces about the movements and positions of the Ukrainian army." Meet the troops of the Ukrainian 24th Detachment Mechanized Brigade returned to the deep earth shelter under the trench line. Their position, outside the village of New York in the Donetsk region, north of the city of Avdiivka in eastern Ukraine, is among a series of firing positions and observation posts, loosely forming a front that has remained for the most part the same since 2014, when Russian forces and their separatist proxies first started to foment war and occupy territory in Donbas. On March 27th, a spokesman Tavria for Ukraine's military command said it agreed with the UK Defense Intelligence assessment that Russia was increasing pressure on supply lines to Avdiivka, as it did in Bakhmut. "The enemy is constantly trying to encircle the town of Avdiivka. I absolutely agree with my British colleagues that Avdiivka could soon become the second Bakhmut," said spokesman Oleksiy Dmitrashkivsky. Let's rewind the tape a few years back in order to better understand what this place is all about, and how long the battles last for this very important strategic place. The Battle of Avdiivka was a famous military clash that took place in eastern Ukraine from January 28th to February 4th, 2017. The battle was fought between the Ukrainian armed forces and Russian-backed separatists who controlled parts of the Donetsk People's Republic. The fighting was some of the most bloody seen in the region since the start of the conflict back in 2014, with heavy shelling and street-to-street fighting. The town was left without power or water during that time, and civilians were forced to take cover in basements and bomb shelters. Both sides suffered significant casualties, and the battle resulted in a ceasefire agreement that was reached on February 4th. However, sporadic fighting continued in the area in the months that followed. Fighting started again on the 21st of February 2022, when Russian President Vladimir Putin recognized the Donetsk People's Republic. Then Russia invaded Ukraine, and a few days later, Avdiivka was among the first places to be attacked by the occupying troops. Since 2015, Avdiivka has been on the front lines of the Russian-Ukrainian war. It was the place of the 2017 Battle of Avdiivka, which left the town in ruins, but also left Ukrainian forces in control of the town. In the vicinity of Avdiivka village, Pisky was taken on August 2, 2022, by Russian and DNR troops. Early in September, a number of separatist forces, including the Somalia and Sparta battalions, started an assault in the larger Avdiivka region, particularly close to Pisky. The Wall Street Journal stated that Ukrainian soldiers remain on the defensive in Avdiivka as of late September. On October 10th, Ukraine claimed that Russia was aiming to encircle the city of Avdiivka. Battles in Bakhmut to the northeast and Avdiivka to the southwest, where Russian troops are making calculating advances, may soon threaten the 9-year-old status quo close to New York. Ukrainian leaders have warned that a breakout in those areas would obstruct supply lines into the region and increase the possibility that Ukrainian forces could become surrounded. The unifying of Russian forces from the north and south into a unified westward pushing line of attack would be a major victory in this exhausting war, where advances are made in feet, not miles, and would contribute to Vladimir Putin's goal of capturing the entire Donetsk region as well as 3 others, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. The hilly terrain close to New York is a significant barrier that the Russian forces rely on to their advantage, according to Ukrainian soldiers. Until they strike in small groups, probing the lines for weaknesses or attempting to provoke Ukrainian troops into firing and revealing their positions, invading forces can move unnoticed under the cover of the hilly terrain. The surrounding environment does not entirely work in our favor. Sometimes we're not in the best positions. We don't always see them, a senior sergeant said, using just the call sign Puma in accordance with Ukrainian military regulations. He claimed that the soldiers adopted the same tactics as the Su-25 pilot, who concealed his position between 2 hills by taking advantage of the topography until he could launch his missiles from a safe distance. According to Puma, the plane can elude the radar and can be discovered when it fired and made its way back home. And by then, it is too late for any anti-aircraft missile launch. Although there hasn't been much action in this area lately, it nevertheless serves as a crucial buffer to prevent the currently divided Russian forces from uniting along the front, Puma continued. The longer we hold this line, the better and easier it'll be for Bakhmut. Definitely not much easier. I am unable to say with complete accuracy, but the situation for the guys there might improve if we draw larger enemy forces in this direction, and it might even prevent an entire encirclement of Bakhmut, Puma said. It appears that the enemy is building and digging everywhere. Digging trenches and installing anti-tank defenses, according to Puma. The drones are recording all of this activity, and that information is passed on to the intelligence headquarters. He explained that even though his soldiers were mentally worn out from the war, they were still gearing up for more battles to come. We'll need to move this front line further back as much as possible. Without any discussion or hesitation, that is the way things must be. I said to my soldiers, "Boys, while we're here, we're resting, but there be an order to take a brave and heroic step forward. Be sure of that," said the Ukrainian brigade commander. Puma explains that prior to the conflict, he had never been a fan of firearms. Even now, he has no great desire to use weapons. He said, "But unfortunately, this is probably the only way to push out the enemy from our country. We already asked them nicely to leave, but they didn't want to do that. Now we will have to motivate them somehow. That could be less complicated," Puma joked at the end. There is no doubt that the Russian army is making progress in Bakhmut, but there are clear indications that those forces are being greatly exhausted and that it is only a matter of time before their advance stops. Then the big battle for the city of Avdiivka and the long-announced Ukrainian spring offensive will begin. Thanks for watching us. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. See you soon with new information from the Ukrainian battlefield.